All of these detail shots, macro shots I'm showing you guys right now, they speak for themselves. So this figure of Ningguang is pretty much Apex Toys making a statement, letting all of us collectors know that they can compete with the very best figure brands from Japan. But I believe Apex Toys made one big mistake. Hello and welcome back to X-Kurgane Blog and Photography. I'm Steven with a very highly anticipated review. This is Apex Toys 1x7 scale Ningguang from Genshin Impact, which I have just done an unboxing video several days ago. And if you're watching this review today, perhaps you are very interested in her, or you have already pre-ordered one yourself. So you need to be mentally prepared to pay for the shipping cost of this figure because she comes in a premium wooden box. Yes, a wooden box. And together with all the packaging involved, she weighs over 8 kilograms to ship. So yeah, you will need to prepare your wallets for it, I guess. Nevertheless, please do check out that unboxing video. There is a lot of information being revealed over there. It will be worth your time. I do promise that. Back to this figure, let's talk about the release date and the price. If you have checked Amiami.com, this figure is supposed to be released sometime in October later this year. And here it is, I already have one in front of me because this is the mainland China release version. This is exactly the same scenario as Mihoyo's Paimon and also Apex Toys Klee, which were released last year. So, with Chinese companies, Apex Toys is a Chinese company, they tend to have two release dates where they release it earlier in the mainland Chinese market, mainland China. This is the mainland China release version where she was shipped out to me on around the 30th of July last month. Yeah, I pre-ordered her in China's Taobao, which is basically their largest e-commerce website, their equivalent of Amazon, and pretty much the mainland China version of AliExpress. You can try out that site, but you will need to be able to communicate in Chinese, of course. So I pre-ordered her in Taobao in Mihoyo's official store. They do have a store in Taobao. And paid a deposit around October last year or so. And then back in April or May, she was supposed to come out in June, and they started collecting the remainder payment. I did the full payment, and in total she cost me about 1300 Chinese yuan. The conversion will be right up here, how much it is in Japanese yen and US dollars. So I paid 1300 Chinese yuan for her in total. That is not yet including shipping cost, right? And she was delayed to late August, shortly after I cleared my payment. At least that was what Mihoyo told me, so it was a pleasant surprise to see her being shipped out in late July. If you are feeling dejected where you have to wait a few more months to get this figure, I assure you that you do not have to feel that way because Apex Toys has a history of releasing better versions of the very same figure in the international second release, in the second batch. Which is kind of amusing and hilarious at the same time when you think about it, because those mainland China collectors who had the exclusivity to get the figure early are the one getting screwed over with an inferior version of the very same figure. That is exactly what happened to Klee, which I also reviewed on this channel. I got my hands on the mainland China batch, the early batch, and that figure had quality control issues, though not major, not a big deal breaker, but they were there. A lot of us gave feedback to Apex Toys, and all of the problems were fixed in the international release version several months later. So you don't have to worry or feel too sad about getting the figure much later. Most likely you will get a very good copy of this figure, which is already pretty much perfect in my comparison. In the earlier official photos that were released, the prototype photos, her eyes looked much nicer, or at least that is what we felt after seeing it. And then shortly after this figure was released, some users posted their smartphone photos online and it looked kind of bad initially, But those were smartphone photos which you could not trust 100%. And I posted my own photos in my Facebook page also a few days ago, and they looked so much better. I was very happy with what I'm seeing with this figure, so her face is a non-issue. So this figure of Ningguang is pretty much Apex Toys making a statement, letting all of us collectors know that they can compete with the very best figure brands from Japan. The sculpt of this figure, the face was slightly changed in the final product, but not in a bad way. In fact, I think her face looks very nice indeed. And the overall sculpt of this figure, putting her face aside, everything is spot on with what you see in the official product photos. When you put aside the sculpt, you go for the details of the paint work. The paint is so precise that you don't see any scratches, any paint bleeding, any blemishes or paint transfers, nothing of that sort. All of these detail shots, macro shots I'm showing you guys right now, they speak for themselves. It is like using a magnifying glass to inspect a figure, yet there is virtually no flaws to be seen on the surface of the figure. So the figure is well worth the asking price. If money is no object, yes, go and get one of these figures. My only concern left with Apex Toys as a figure manufacturer is whether they can maintain this kind of consistency, not just with the international release of this figure but also in future products. Reputations are built from years and years of consistency, just like what Alter achieved, for example. It is not something you achieve overnight. There is no point if you make an excellent product in 1 month and then you get a quality control disaster in the following month with a different figure. There is no point to that. So we shall see in the long term how Apex Toys stands up to the other figure companies out there. This figure has a lot of things going on, many parts, and it is unlikely you will be able to assemble it quick enough without an instruction sheet, at least for your first time doing so, but at the same time, she is not difficult to assemble. And one of the good parts of this figure as well is that every single part that needs to be assembled, the tightness of each part is just right. None of the parts are either too tight or too loose, and if you want to disassemble this figure to put her back in the box, very unlikely you will end up breaking something. Well, except for one part, which is this smoke effect part over here. It looks very nice. I really like it a lot. However, on this lower ends over here, where this metal pack is inserted into the metal, the gold color pot over here on the ground, it is very tight and I did not dare to push in the pack fully into the pot. So I left some metal protruding out, which is not very nice to look at, but I would rather leave it this way over using excessive force and accidentally breaking something in the process. Meanwhile, this lantern does contain an LED inside, but a battery is not included. You will have to purchase your own button battery. Well, because of international shipping regulations related to batteries, even the smallest batteries might cause issues during import, so they are playing it safe over here by not including one. Understandable. This white colored pot in front, which contains a few paper scrolls, it is very heavy, as if this is a ceramic pot itself. And I believe there are a few reasons for doing so. The first one is that, yeah, it gives you the feel of a ceramic pot. It feels more realistic. And the second reason is that some weight is needed so that you don't accidentally knock the part over. There is no pack to secure this thing, so being heavy itself makes it less likely to tip over. You won't knock the thing over, which is a very nice attention to detail. And one last thing I would like to talk about this figure, which is very rare in other expensive scale figures, is that all of the parts that lie flat on the ground, they are actually flat. There are no parts like hair strands that, they just bend up, they are distorted, they just bend up at one end and it looks like it is floating. It does not make sense at all. But every single hair strand, every single part that lies flat on the base, yes, they actually lie flat, 100% flat. There are no hair strands or tips that actually bend upwards, bend sidewards, or into funny directions, and it just look weird or unnatural. None of that. Everything is flat on the base. This is quality control at its finest. As you can see, I've given this figure a very glowing review because it does deserve all the praises, but at the same time, I think Apex Toys has made a big miscalculation, a big mistake from a business standpoint. It has nothing to do with the figure itself, it has all to do with the packaging, that wooden box. Make no mistake, this figure of Ningguang puts Shibuya Scramble figure to shame. This company, Shibuya Scramble figure, I have always been a big critic of them. They market their figures as something premium, very high-end, up to 45,000 yen for each figure, yet they couldn't afford to package their figures properly, protect it properly, that some collectors receive theirs literally scrambled, very befitting of the name Shibuya Scramble figure. In fact, some local figure vendors in my country, they import these figures in wooden crates just to protect them, which is kind of ridiculous, yet ironic at the same time that Apex Toys is using wood for their Ningguang figure. At the same time, Apex Toys has overdone the packaging of this figure by going for wood. My personal opinion or suggestion, Apex Toys should have made two different versions of this figure. A normal version with a traditional cardboard box, and a deluxe version with all the fancy stuff and that wooden box, steel box, titanium box, whatever it is. Two different versions. And then for the deluxe version, you warn your customers that it will be heavy and give an estimated weight. It does not have to be accurate. Even if they told us it is 6 kilos, 6.5 kilos, but the final weight is 2 kg heavier, I would have been able to accept it despite that increase in weight. But if you keep all of us in the dark by just telling us the box is big and nothing else, when people do eventually find out how expensive it is to ship this thing just because of a box, people are going to start cancelling pre-orders. Shipping is very expensive nowadays. Now think about those in the US, Canada, or South America. They are half a planet away from Asia. They are going to suffer the most from shipping costs, and on top of that, they have to pay taxes during importation. More than a few people are going to cancel their pre-orders, which wouldn't have happened if there is a cheaper option to pay less for shipping by having a normal box for normal human beings. This is what I meant by a miscalculation. Apex Toys might have been able to sell more of this figure by giving everyone a cheaper option, a cheaper alternative. That is what I personally think. So this is all about this figure of Ningguang. I really hope you enjoyed this review, and if you did, please do like this video. It really will help this channel a lot. And do consider subscribing for more content like this in the future. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching this review, and I shall see you guys again soon. Goodbye.